Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and that bell icon thing so you don't miss out on our future episodes. Today we are going to be exploring coniferous forests. Now this deep dive is perfect for anyone really. Whether you're a UPSC aspirant trying to get a better handle on your environmental science, a student who's just curious about the world around them, or just someone who appreciates the beauty of nature.
That's right.
We're going to be taking a look at what makes these forests unique, why they matter so much to the planet, and the kind of challenges that they're facing in our world. So, ready to explore the world of towering evergreens and maybe even a bit of snow.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So first things first, imagine this vast, unbroken forest, I'm talking massive, stretching across North America, Europe, and Asia. This is the taiga, sometimes called the boreal forest, where coniferous trees are the real stars of the show.
And it's super interesting how this biome, the taiga, basically forms this continuous belt across the northern hemisphere. You see, it's almost entirely absent in the southern hemisphere.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, the continents down south are much narrower at those high latitudes. There just isn't enough landmass for the taiga to, really take hold.
So it's like the North got to hoard all the coniferous beauty for itself.
Pretty much.
So speaking of beauty, what exactly makes these forests so unique? I mean, we were talking about long, harsh winters with temperatures way below freezing and summers that are super short, not exactly a beach vacation spot.
Right.
And then there's the soil. It's definitely not that rich, fertile stuff you'd find in like a rainforest. We're talking about podulized soil, which is acidic and kind of lacking in nutrients. Plus, decomposition happens really slowly there.
Yeah, it's a tough environment for sure, but that's where the incredible adaptations of coniferous trees come into play.
Oh yeah, tell me about those adaptations.
Well, their needle-like leaves, help them conserve water, which is really important in those cold, dry conditions.
Yeah.
And their conical shape.
Yeah.
It helps them shed snow so they don't get weighed down and, break. And the fact that they're evergreen, it means they can photosynthesize whenever there's enough light, even in the winter.
It's like they've hacked the system for surviving in these challenging conditions.
That's a great way to put it.
And it's not just the trees that are touched, right? The animals that live in the taiga have also developed some pretty amazing adaptations to survive the cold. Think about the thick fur coats you see on moose or lynx, or even that snowshoe hare that changes its fur color from brown in the summer to white in the winter.
Yeah, amazing camouflage.
Totally.
It's a constant back and forth between survival and adaptation. But the thing is, the world of coniferous forests, it's a lot more diverse than just the, snowy taiga.
Oh, okay, I'm listening.
It's kind of like a family with lots of different branches, each with its own unique features and beauty.
So we've got the classic taiga, but what other types of coniferous forests are there?
Well, imagine you're way up high in the mountains, clinging to these steep slopes. That's where you find montane coniferous forests.
Wow, okay.
You're talking trees like subalpine fir and Engelmann spruce, really tough trees that can handle strong winds and rocky terrain.
They sound pretty hardcore.
They are. And then there are the temperate coniferous forests. Those are a little more, forgiving, with a mix of coniferous and broadleaf trees. It creates a beautiful mix of greens and browns, like the Pacific Northwest of North America.
I've always wanted to go there. I can almost smell the damp earth and pine needles just thinking about it.
It's amazing, isn't it, how these forests can thrive in such different environments.
It really is.
And we haven't even touched on the tropical coniferous forests yet.
Wait, tropical coniferous forests? That sounds like an oxymoron.
I know, right? But they actually exist. They're found in high elevation tropical zones where the temperatures are cooler, and the soil conditions there, they create the perfect environment for conifers to grow. Like, take the Sierra Madre Oriental in Mexico, for example.
Okay.
You've got this incredible mix of tropical and coniferous species all in one place.
It's like nature's way of showing off its creativity.
For sure.
So we've got montane, temperate, and even tropical coniferous forests. What else is there?
Well, how about we travel to regions with a Mediterranean climate, like California or parts of Australia?
Okay.
There you'll find sclerophyllous coniferous forests. They're dominated by species like Monterey pines and cypresses, which are adapted to dry conditions and, frequent fires.
Wow, they sound pretty resilient.
They are. And finally, picture this. Alpine coniferous forests.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
These are high-altitude survivors sculpted by harsh winds and freezing temperatures. Think white bark pines clinging to those windswept mountaintops, their branches all gnarled and twisted from years of battling the elements.
They sound pretty epic. So from snowy landscapes to tropical mountains, these forests have found a way to thrive in some of the most challenging environments on Earth. But all this diversity, it's not just for show. It plays a huge role in keeping our planet healthy. So let's shift gears for a bit and talk about why these forests are so important and why their future should matter to every single one of us, whether we live near one or not.
Absolutely, that's a critical point. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of coniferous forests.
All right, so before we took a break, we were talking about the amazing diversity of coniferous forests all over the planet. But now it's time to, get a little bit real. We need to talk about the challenges these incredible ecosystems are up against. It's kind of like finding out that your favorite superhero has a secret weakness.
I like that analogy. And unfortunately, coniferous forests do have some pretty serious threats to contend with.
Yeah, like what?
Well, one of the biggest is deforestation. We're talking about clearing these forests on a massive scale, and it's mainly driven by, the demand for timber, paper, land for agriculture, and just, urban sprawl.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? We're talking about forests that actually help regulate the climate,
Yeah.
but we're chopping them down for these short-term gains. It's like sawing off the branch we're sitting on.
It really is a concerning paradox, and the rate at which it's happening in some places, like parts of Siberia and the Amazon rainforest, it's just not sustainable.
Right, and it's not just about losing trees, is it? I mean, deforestation has this domino effect. It impacts everything from how stable the soil is to the water cycle, and then there's the whole issue of the incredible biodiversity that depends on these forests.
Exactly. When we destroy these habitats, we're putting so many species at risk, including some that are already struggling to survive, like the Siberian tiger.
Yeah, I've heard about those.
They need these vast, untouched forests to survive. So as their habitat shrinks, their chances of making it just get smaller and smaller.
It's like a chain reaction. One thing leads to another, and it just creates this cascade of negative impacts on the whole ecosystem. And then, to make matters worse, we've got climate change adding fuel to the fire, so to speak. I mean, we talked about how these forests help regulate the climate, but they're also really vulnerable to the changes that are happening.
Yeah, it's this kind of cruel twist. Rising temperatures and changes in rainfall patterns are putting a lot of stress on these forests. We're seeing more and more forest fires, outbreaks of pests and diseases, and climate change is definitely making all of these things worse.
So it's like these forests are getting hit from both sides. Human pressures and a changing climate. It's a pretty discouraging picture. But I have to believe that there's still hope. We can't just sit back and watch these vital ecosystems fall apart. What can we actually do to turn things around?
There's definitely hope. We've got the knowledge, the tools, and I think more and more people are becoming aware of the problem. It's going to take a multifaceted approach involving governments, communities, and individuals. We need to act decisively and work together.
Okay, so where do we start? What are some concrete things we can do to protect these forests?
Well, one really crucial strategy is to expand and strengthen protected areas. We need to safeguard large chunks of these forests, create reserves where human interference is limited, and allow those ecosystems to thrive naturally.
So you're talking about things like national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, places that are specifically dedicated to conservation and research.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the areas that aren't officially protected? I mean, we can't just fence off every forest, right?
Right, and that's where sustainable forestry practices come in. It's all about managing forests responsibly, making sure that when we harvest trees, we do it in a way that minimizes damage and allows the forest to regenerate naturally.
So things like selective logging, where you just cut down specific trees instead of clear-cutting a whole area.
Yeah.
And then there are those reforestation efforts where they plant new trees to replace the ones that have been harvested.
Exactly. Those are all really positive steps. And then you have things like certification programs, like the Forest Stewardship Council.
I've heard of that.
They help consumers identify products that come from sustainably managed forests.
So we can actually make a difference by choosing to buy products that support responsible forestry. I like that. It makes me feel like I'm actually doing something to help. But it's not just about the big picture, right? Local communities and indigenous groups that live in and around these forests, they play a huge role too, don't they?
They absolutely do. Engaging those local communities and indigenous people is critical. They have a deep understanding of these ecosystems, and they often have this traditional knowledge that's been passed down for generations. It's incredibly valuable for conservation.
It's about respecting that knowledge and working together to find solutions that benefit everyone, the people and the environment.
Exactly. We need to find ways to create sustainable livelihoods that depend on healthy forests. This could involve things like ecotourism, sustainably harvesting non-timber forest products, or even carbon offset programs that provide financial incentives to keep forests standing.
It's about finding that balance, isn't it? A way for people and forests to thrive side by side.
That's the ultimate goal. We want to see a world where coniferous forests continue to clean our air, provide homes for all those amazing species, and just inspire awe and wonder in everyone who experiences them.
It's definitely a vision worth fighting for. So, as we move into the final part of our deep dive into coniferous forests, we've traveled through their diversity, explored their crucial roles, and confronted the serious challenges they face. Now it's time to look ahead. Let's imagine a future where these majestic ecosystems don't just survive, but actually thrive. Stay with us as we wrap up our exploration and consider what a sustainable future for coniferous forests might really look like. And we're back for the final stretch of our coniferous forest adventure. We've covered a lot of ground, from their amazing diversity to the threats they're facing, but now I'm ready to hear about solutions. How do we ensure these forests not only survive, but actually thrive in the future?
I'm glad you asked. One concept that's really important for the future of coniferous forests is this idea of adaptive management.
Adaptive management. Okay, what is that?
It's actually pretty straightforward. It basically means we're always learning, and adjusting our approach as we go along. We're keeping an eye on the health of the forests, watching for any changes in the species that live there, and looking for any signs of trouble. And if something isn't working, we change things up, try new approaches, and make sure our conservation efforts are always using the best and most up-to-date scientific knowledge.
So it's like we're treating the forest like a patient, checking its vital signs regularly and making sure its treatment plan is working.
Precisely. It's about being proactive, not just reacting when things go wrong. And the good news is, we have some amazing tools to help us do this.
Like what kind of tools?
Well, technology is playing a bigger and bigger role in conservation. Take remote sensing and satellite imagery, for example. They can actually help us keep track of deforestation as it's happening. We can literally see where trees are being cut down, sometimes even before it's too late to do something about it.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like having eyes in the sky, watching over these forests.
Exactly. We can also use tech to monitor wildlife, understand how they move around, and even predict how diseases might spread. And all this data helps us make smarter decisions about how to best protect these ecosystems.
So technology is giving us a much clearer picture of what's happening on the ground. But I imagine it's still crucial to have people on the ground actually working in the forests, right?
You're absolutely right. That's why getting local communities and indigenous peoples involved is so vital. We need to give them the power to be active participants in managing and conserving these forests.
Because they're the ones who actually live in and around these forests, day in and day out. They understand the land and its history.
Exactly. They often hold traditional knowledge that's been passed down through generations, knowledge that's incredibly valuable for conservation. It's about recognizing their expertise and working together to find solutions that benefit everyone, both people and the environment.
So it's not just about protecting trees, but also the people, their livelihoods, and their cultures that are connected to these forests.
Precisely. And we need to find ways for people to make a living that also supports healthy forests. Things like ecotourism, sustainably harvesting things besides timber, or even those carbon offset programs that give people a financial incentive to keep forests standing.
It's about finding that sweet spot where taking care of the environment also allows people to thrive.
That's the ultimate goal. A world where coniferous forests keep cleaning our air, providing homes for all those amazing species, and inspiring everyone who experiences them.
It's a future worth working towards. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of coniferous forests, what's the one thing you'd like our listeners to remember?
It's actually pretty simple. The future of these forests is in our hands. Every choice we make, what we buy, what we do, it can all make a difference in protecting them.
Well said. It's a call to action for all of us, a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more sustainable future. Thanks so much for joining us on this journey, and a huge thank you to our expert for sharing their knowledge. And remember to like this episode if you learned something new, subscribe to The Deep Dive for more fascinating explorations, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the wonders of our world.